I'd like to tell a couple of stories today that come from India. One of these I recall hearing in Rishikesh, since it involved a Swami who lived in Rishikesh named Swami Chidananda, who was the head of the Divine Life Society after Swami Shivananda, who founded it. And this story is a very simple story, and yet the implications of it contain vast vistas of possibility for all of us. The story, and the story may be apocryphal, although I don't think so, because it was related with a certain authority, and it seems to me that it was by someone who knew him directly, or may have even been there for all I know. The story goes that Swami Shivananda was very lovingly relating to his disciple Chidananda, and perhaps was near the end of his own life, Shivananda's own life, and was offering his disciple a boon, which is to say a spiritual wish or just something. And this is something that even on our path as well, we have heard that Yogananda have made such offers to disciples at various points. It's an interesting question, and I won't digress now. I'll tell the story now, but that concept raises interesting questions and possibilities. Anyway, he asked Chidananda, if there is something that I can give you, what would it be? Meaning, do you have any final wish from me as your disciple? Is there any worldly fulfillment, any desire that you have? And Swami Chidananda very simply said, I would like a cup of tea. And, we may think, oh my God, you could have asked for samadhi, you could have asked for, any one of, whatever your heart's desire. And what struck me, I was relating this story to Nirmala, who I think had not ever heard it before. I think it came up on one of the few pilgrimages that I ever took in India while we lived there. I think it was virtually the only one, and it was just a few days. I was helping to lead it. But anyway, when she heard it, she said, oh, that is so sweet. And that's how I felt about it too, that there was such love between disciple and guru that there was nothing particular that he wanted or needed. There was no desire. And what mostly struck me is that I feel that I've touched the edge of that state where any desire would take you away from the bliss or the peace or the love or the fulfillment that you feel in that moment. So to make a particular request, to say to the master, and this is actually a story that a true story from in this country, where Yogananda asked a student of his that offered her 3 wishes, and one of those wishes in her case was for $1 million. And he said, I can do that, but I want you to understand that if I do, then what will happen is within a year or 2 you will have spent it and will not have anything to show for it. And he said a better wish would be to have whatever you need when you need it. And that's what she opted for. That in that particular case, he told her that she had been one of his teachers in a distant former lifetime. And so this was his sort of in gratitude to whatever she had given him in that incarnation. This was his way of offering his gratitude back to her. And anyway, but it's just a fascinating thought to think that in that moment, the Guru is offering this. What would you wish from me? What can I give you? How can I serve you? And the disciple just says, I would like a cup of tea. And which is sort of the simplest thing. And the way the story went on in that case is that word got around that, he was the Swami who liked to have a cup of tea. And so everyone would make him tea, which of course in India is quite a common thing anyway. But in so doing, he always had a reminder of the sweetness of his Guru. Because every time someone would make him a cup of tea, he would be able, if he chose to remember that connection to the Master. In a sense, this is a part of the simple but profound ritual of communion in the Christian tradition. That we have bread, the most basic, in a sense, the most common food staple in the Western world, and wine, which was essentially about the same thing as having a glass of water. Bread and wine together equaled, let us remember our connection with Christ. Let us remember our connection with our Master. And so in our lives, let us look for, whether we've had this kind of experience or not, let us look for the sweetness that connects us with the Master, with God in the form that we have attracted into our lives. The other story that I'll share, again, takes place in India, and this is a true story also. In this case, a woman had traveled to the Bangalore area and was there on business. She was only there for a week or 10 days. It was a short trip from the U.S. She had some sort of business training to do for people there. And so she was put up in an apartment somewhere not far from where she was working, but she had her evenings free and the weekends free. And so on one of those days, she wanted to be taken to the market that she had heard about. And the people around her sort of gently tried to dissuade her from going there, but she was determined. She wanted to go. So, okay, if you would like to go, let's go. So they took her there, and it was a wild scene. It was noisy. It was chaotic. It was, commotion, and not an outdoor market, not a little bit dirty. I'm sure the market is famous. I don't recall the name of it in the moment, but somewhere she's drifted in the direction of a kind of a lower level place where she found women stringing flower garlands, and a whole group of them working together and talking and just going about their work. But it was a very peaceful sort of scene underneath all this commotion. Not in a sense, not a very beautiful setting, sort of a lower work area, so not necessarily all that clean, etc. But anyway, while she was down there and she was looking at these garlands and reflecting that, these women probably made pennies in a day, that this was extraordinarily humble work that they were doing. And she thought, well, I'd like to get one of these garlands. And so she looked through, various ones. There were quite a few women there, so there were lots and lots of garlands to pick from. And she found one that she liked, and she looked at the woman who had made it and didn't speak the local language, which is Kannada. And so her translator sort of was working with her, and she wanted to pay for this, and the woman didn't want the money. The woman garlanded herself, and said, this is a good garland for you, essentially, meaning this looks nice on you and it has a nice energy for you. And the woman pulled out a whole bunch of money. I mean, 500, 1,000 rupees, which would be the equivalent of $10 or $15, something like that. And the woman was just like, no, I do not want that money. And she thought, now I've caused some offense and I don't even know why. And she, apologized in her way and went away and was asking the guide afterwards, so you have to explain to me what happened there. I just thought it would be a nice gesture to give this woman some money. And the man said, what you have to understand is that you did her a great honor by choosing her garland. And she felt that the honor you had given her was more than enough payment. The garland itself wasn't particularly valuable in terms of money. I mean, those things are very inexpensive. They get delivered daily to people's homes on little motorcycles or bicycles that are draped with them, and they come in a little plastic bag tied to the doorknob, and there's an arrangement that you get them every day, however many days in a week, and you pay every so often, but it's minimal amounts of money. But he just said, you have done her a great honor by choosing her garland. And this was an American businesswoman, quite wealthy, especially in the setting of India, where the dollar is kind of comes in at a much higher level in terms of the exchange rate. And she said, I thought, wow, this woman gave me far more than a garland. She gave me something a lesson for life, essentially, is what she was saying, because what she gave me is, she gave me the respect. She showed me that she valued her own work so much that she didn't want money for it. She valued the respect of her peers, and she showed me that wealth is more than money. And it was a real changing point, a real turning point in this woman's life. And she realized that what she needed to do in her life was sort of stop selling herself, selling her time for a profession that she did not love and that was not especially fulfilling, but was a good living in the sense of earning a good income, but it was not feeding her soul. And how a woman in India who would not take her money showed her the value of her life, the value of her money. And that for all of us, we can go to that same place where we understand from the inside that wealth is more than money and that true fulfillment is always completely within us. We have to go and look for it there, but it's certainly waiting for us when we do so. Namaste.